So for us at the time, we were in a major drought here in our part of Colorado. Hay prices had more than doubled. And I mean, we don't have a lot of options, right? So our horses have to eat. And so as we were looking at ways to make it affordable, at that time we were trucking from out of state. We were bringing things in from the Dakotas and just trying to be able to afford hay for our horses. And I know there was a lot of concern amongst all the ranches, having to maybe even sell horses and things like that, just being able to afford them. The first person that noticed it was our farriers. Right away, they said that the condition of our horses' feet were so much better, stronger, the growth, it was just overall, they could really tell a difference in their feet. And that was within that first summer, that we started doing it. And their coats, that was a big difference. I mean, just their body conditions, the shine on their coats, you could tell that they were basically getting a really big nutritional boost. The other thing that we saw was we had basically went from several cases of colic a summer to absolutely zero. Horses that had heaves and had coughs, because we're on a dry lot and it's very dusty out here. So our horses unfortunately aren't on pasture. And so in areas where their hay and things like that were a little bit dustier, it basically cut out all of those issues. So the heaves they just disappeared basically, and all the horses that we had that, the coughing, like I said, no colic, no issues with that, and they literally chased the truck. We also have petting farm animals and things like that. Like we breed milk goats and, different things. And so I would always make sure that they would get it too, because it just increased their lactation and just their health as they were breeding and things like that. So the amount of protein, the vitamins, just all of that was in there. Plus you get like the little extra bits from the chlorophyll and the beta carotene and stuff like that, that all, is part of it being grown the way that it is. But all of that combined, and then just that extra moisture, the horses not getting the compaction and things like that they can sometimes get when they get grain, but also the hay on top of that. Like I said, without having the dust and things like that they were getting in the hay a lot of times and eating it off the ground, it eliminated that. So there was, for us, when we did the nutritional analysis, we were like, okay, like this looks like it's going to be even better than the grain that we've been doing, at a much lower cost. So our horses are actually, we have very little pasture space. And so probably only, 15 acres of the 80 that we have is grazing. And so our horses aren't, grazing most of the year. So they are in a big lot that they just get free choice hay all the time. And then during the winter time, we have to drop hay anyways because we get so much snow. So unfortunately, right, we weren't able to do the grazing. So this was a way that we could provide our animals with, basically fresh greens. And it was even better than if they were just grazing grass. So. For hay, we were doing a mixed, mix, a little bit of everything. We weren't able to source alfalfa out here really well. We would have to bring that in, but all the local growers, it's a hay mix, just mostly like a Timothy kind of grass. So we focused on the horses that we needed that extra nutritional boost, and the ones that were working. And then in the wintertime, we split our herd, and half of them we keep back at the ranch, provided it to the ones that were just on ranch. When we first started it, of course, we were curious. And so we did a lot of testing initially, one, just on the nutritional parts of that, but also weight, because we wanted to make sure that the horses obviously were getting enough. Our horses on average eat about 30 pounds a day is what we obviously want to have for them. And so when we were able to introduce the fodder into that, those biscuits were weighing pretty consistently 18 to 20 pounds, sometimes a little bit more, but never really less than 18 pounds. And so for us, if they ate a full biscuit, then that would have been a little over half of what they needed, obviously, for the day, 2/3 of what they needed. For us, we just throw the whole thing in. We just have, we know that that's going to be we want it to be about half of what they get, their nutrition for the day. And so with our numbers, that actually worked really well. We could do the full system, and that would be about 2/3. One horse doesn't need a full biscuit per day. So it worked out pretty good with our 100 to be able to give them, all of that. And then they just naturally just share it. Obviously, we're not weighing it out and seeing what each one gets. The whole thing, all the way down to the little tiny baby roots. And so yeah, so it worked really well. And the same way that we portion feed, our horses, so they just eat it up. For us, when we did the nutritional analysis, we were like, okay, like this looks like it's going to be even better than the grain that we've been doing, at a much lower cost and an easier way to be able to get everybody all of that at one time, to be able to grow it and have it daily coming out, because we ran ours around the clock. And so I think once a season, we would stop and do a deep clean on it, and then, fire it back up and know that within 6 days, we'd have it coming back out again. And so, we were even approached by other people who asked us to grow for them, but we weren't, at that point, we weren't set up to have any extra. We just wanted, make sure that our horses had everything that they needed. But certainly we could have done that if, for us, one of the big draws for us was being able to give our horses that extra nutrition in the wintertime, because the winters are hard. I mean, it's cold here. It's, -30s, and that wind gets blowing and things like that. We wanted to really bolster them as much as possible and give them that extra benefit in the nutrition department. So that was obviously something that we considered, but we thought, okay, we're going to make this initial investment. It was within the first 2 years, it paid for itself really easily, because we stopped. It actually was kind of funny, because I think once all the local growers realized that we could make our own hay, or rather make our own feed, they started negotiating with us a little bit more about hay prices, because they were like, oh no. They didn't want to lose that business. And we still used, for half of it, we still did that. But I think it gave us a little bartering power, because we weren't just subject to whatever everybody was telling us. Again, our horses had to eat. And so at that time, we were subject to whatever prices they wanted to charge us. And so once we had a little bit more control over that, we could take a deep breath. And I think it made them a little bit more aware of, okay, maybe we need to, be a little more reasonable about some of this. And so it was better all the way around in that way too. So the amount of senior feed and skinny feed that we spend, and we spend a lot of money just trying to keep some of our older horses up, and then the extra supplements on top of that. So you end up giving them a mix of like 10 different things, whereas before with the fodder, you could just give them that, and that was like their their multivitamin and their, food for the day. And it was easy for them to process. Some of the horses that we have end up with tooth issues over the years as they get older, and they get a little bit harder to process the hay. And so some of them go to a complete feed because that's easier for them to process than some of that coarser hay. And so with the fodder, though, they could always process that. It's grass, it's really soft. And so they were able to consume that without any problem. And well, we've definitely done both. So the grain, it's totally different. And also, the barley seed has a different nutritional value than as it does in a seed, So my daughter, coincidentally, it's funny, we did a science fair project on this, and she actually won the whole science fair with this. But we tested about 6 different kinds of seeds in our fodder system. We did everything from wheatgrass to oats. We did triticale. We did a bunch of different ones, and everything from some that were a little cheaper to ones that were a little bit more expensive. We ran them the exact same way, and we tested so how they sprouted and the growth on those, and also what the horses preferred, and just overall like how they held together. We did a little nutritional analysis on each of them, and the bottom line was that the barley seed had the best nutrition, it had the best growth overall, and the horses actually preferred it. So when we put it out, they didn't even really want the other kind. So and this was on horses that hadn't had it. So anyways, it was actually really interesting for us that what we were doing was the right thing. And yeah, you can't, just the moisture content in that fodder is, I feel like, makes a huge difference in their systems. Again, like I said, cough, heaves, colic, and things like that. Our horses also are working all the time, and they don't always drink enough like they should. I know I'm that way, so I can't blame the horses, but this was a way to give them like all the nutritional things that they needed, but also a good drink of water and keep their insides moving really well. And yeah, that alone was just a huge game changer for us. We started seeing the benefits of them just being able to have all that moisture in their bodies. So you can't get that with the grain. We've done the grain, and it costs more to do the grain, honestly, a lot more. So it was it's a little bit more time, but they absolutely love it, and you'll see the difference within like a short amount of time. It's a really quick turnaround to start seeing what that does for them. So our horses are our number ones, and we tell our guests that. So they're our number one priority. And so the nutritional side of them being cared for is, again, the top of our list. I mean, we don't have they have to be in great working shape. They work hard. They only have to work for 5 months, but we keep them well fed and well taken care of year round so that they're able to do that job. And we never know what week to week is going to bring, and so them being at the top of their health and nutrition is just really important for us. When we stopped doing the fodder, I will tell you, there were even things like, as their body conditions start to drop off, anybody that does any kind of animals and horses knows this, so that they're more susceptible to illness and injuries and things like that. And so things like that even started becoming more evident, just as we weren't able to keep them quite as at the top of that. I mean, again, when you start to realize that, you start putting more money in, and that's what we've done. And so obviously they're in fine shape now, but it's just not the same kind and the same easy level that we were doing with the fodder. So we definitely would like to be able to do that again. And moving forward, I mean, their nutrition is a huge part of what we do. And obviously any way that we can save money is a big deal. We probably spend, if I even told you the amount of money we spend on feed every year, it would sound so ridiculous. But I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. A system that comes in and cuts your feed costs in half, like that's a tremendous savings. We would back a flatbed truck up to that door, open the garage door, you know, open that up, and just stand and throw and toss them and just load up the truck with all the fodder. And then we, especially in the wintertime, we go feed it right away because obviously the moisture content, because it will freeze. And so, I mean, it's warm when it comes out. And so it's not going to, we have like an hour or two, but we obviously wouldn't leave it for any length of time. And so we like to go feed it right away because it's kind of nice for them to get a little warm, you know, treat as well. And so we then would just drive out into our field areas and we throw it just like we do when we portion feed hay. So we just drop it in sections, you know, somebody stands in the back of the truck and tosses it out and spreads it out, you know, throughout the field. And then they just get in their little groups, and it's fun to watch them because, you know, they're really good at breaking it up. They, you probably, well, you've seen them, obviously, they pick it up and they toss it, you know, and it breaks up and they break it into the little smaller bits.